Well, good morning, and it has been a good morning. I woke up today and I was like, hello world, you look beautiful, and I appreciate your temperate. We'll see how it goes the rest of the day. But it's been good. The last time I was here, I began talking about the book, The Power of Now, and I began connecting how this power of understanding is really about becoming present. That deeper understanding comes through this commitment to being present in our lives. And as I was rereading The Power of Now, I was inspired to let it guide the conversation, let it guide the talks for July and for August. So we will continue in this space. And I chose this book because I really, truly saw how important it was in what I last time called the shift show, how important it is to really get into being present. That our presence is needed to really create the shift, not only in our personal lives, but in the lives that are out picturing in our world. And so understanding this became a focus. It became a focus for me, and I hope it becomes a focus for you as well. So in the book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle makes a distinction. He makes a distinction between the being that you are and the thinker that we are. And that we are not the thinker alone. We are not. The ego has done a very good job at convincing us that we are our thoughts. And what Eckhart reminds us is that we are so much more than that. And he talks about how important it is to really give space to that understanding. Because the ego, we have a lot of practice in convincing ourselves we are what we think. We are what we think. And so last time we were together, I really did this practice where we talked about, okay, recognize what your thoughts are, and then give yourself this gap, give yourself this understanding that you are the observer of these thoughts. And in unity, what we know is true is that we are so much more than our thoughts. But it's so interesting to watch myself in how this person of Natalie behaves. Because so often she wakes up in the morning and she immediately attaches to thoughts. What do I gotta do today? What's coming up? What am I gonna wear? I better get into my routine. I better do my prayer. Like, immediately thoughts have me by the tail. And so this whole idea of the power of now is starting to interrupt that for me. I'm starting to try to gain this sense of no thought. And how do I get into what Dr. Wayne Dyer says, into the gap, this gap where we're not thinking. Now, right now, there are so many people looking at me with thoughts going, what is she talking about? How do I get this gap? And we are associating with our thoughts right now. So take a breath and know that you don't have to know. Know that there is a higher sense of your own self that already knows, that is already connected to oneness. And so you won't be lost if you get into the gap. You won't be missing anything if you stop thinking or just observe your thoughts. And so I really liked how he went and talked about this idea of getting into this time of not thinking. And at Unity, when we talk about, we know we're so much more than our thoughts. We know because our second principle says to us that we are an aspect or the essence of God. That is who you are, and God is good. And so when we talk about this, we know that this isn't God running these thoughts about what shoes should I wear, and have I brushed my teeth, and did I take the dogs out? That's not necessarily, God is all there is, but there's the sense of a higher self that stills those thoughts and gets me into actually a deeper connection with my highest self, with a space that is already connected to divine mind. In the space that says, it's okay, Natalie, let go of the distraction. let go of the distraction and just be the being with me. And this is why we really encourage meditation. Meditation is our time to practice getting in the gap, to allowing thoughts to pause, to allow ourselves to just be. And I don't know about you, but meditation often goes like, okay, well, this is good. I like this meditation. There's my preference talking. Okay, this is, well, I don't know if I agree with that, but all right, I'll go with that. And then quiet. Or, I think I left the coffee pot on. Oh, crap, I don't think about this. Or, wow, I have this relationship going on with this person that's really bothering me and I need to take care of it. And what am I going to do? And then quiet. And then, I cannot believe what I read on the news today. Do you know what these people are up to? This cannot stand for our country. What is going on? And then quiet. And so the quiet is not something that comes naturally in some ways, but it only feels that way because we've practiced the thoughts so much. Not thinking is actually really a natural state. And if you're going, well, it's not a natural state for me, you are not alone. It simply means we've been practicing the thinking. We've been prioritizing the thinker. Now, the thinker isn't a negative thing either. I always like to explain that the ego is not to be demonized. The ego is here to serve us. It is here to help us navigate this world. It's important that when I'm driving, I understand and I am thinking where I'm going. Although we've all had the experience driving when you're like pulling into a place going, how did I get here? You have that time when you kind of zone out while you're driving, while things are happening. Well, I'd like to acknowledge that just because we're talking about getting in the gap, I don't want to demonize the ego. I just want to be clear that the ego was never meant to lead you. It was never meant to tell you that this is all you are. The ego was meant to be a tool that we use for navigation, to help us to set boundaries, to help us to understand how to really work in this world. But it is not the leader. And I keep reminding that because it's so important, because exactly as I'm saying this, even if you agree, no more is it out of my mouth than your ego is already re-engaging you to think differently and go back to what is your homeostasis. It's already saying, I don't know about this lady. What is she talking about? I'm allowed to think. I need to think. And it's just important to know too that it's interesting that some of the great thinkers that we have given acknowledgement to in our world, some of our greatest thinkers have a practice of getting into the gap. That their actual thinking happened, their best thoughts occurred, their best experience really happened when they were able to get into that astral space, that place of where the divine mind meets them. And so it's interesting because I was watching something and they were talking about these great thinkers like Tesla and Thomas Edison and even Einstein. They would not just think about a problem by just hashing the same thoughts. They would actually take time to pause the current thought so that they could go into this connection with the higher mind. And it's their practice. You can check it out, you can seek it out, you can look at other great thinkers. They all have this in common. They took time to pause the day-to-day thinking so that they could connect to this higher experience. And that's what's brought in the new things that we think, wow, how did that person ever come up with it? They simply traveled to this space, this divine mind, and allowed it to come to them. And so I say this because it is so incredible to experience yourself in this space of just being and being without just your thought chatter going on. And so I liked this power of now because we talked about observing our thinking. And what Eckhart tells us, he gives us some good cues. He says, if you're thinking about the past, or if you're thinking about the future, you are not in the present. You are not in the present time. So it's a good cue, because right now, are you having thoughts about the past or thoughts about the future? Now get present. And so it's easier said than done sometimes, but I really liked that. And the last time I spoke too, I also talked about how so many times we are in thoughts that are past, we are in thoughts that are present, but also we are pushing our preference. We push our preference into a situation. And we let our editor or our critic come in and go, I don't like this. Well, we got to change that because I don't like that. I prefer this. I prefer that. And sometimes we get so spun into the distraction of getting our preferences to the front and prioritizing our preferences that, have you ever talked to someone who you can't tell a new story to because they really aren't interested in listening? And it's not because they're ignoring you. It is because the story in their head is so loud, they don't have a space for a new story to happen or for the new information to come in. Just me? I know I've been that person, and I know I've spoke to that person. I know it because it's very easy to see when you say something and they hear something else, and you're like, well, did I miscommunicate that? Well, yes and no. I mean, sometimes there can be miscommunication, but often what's happening is that there is a story in their head that is far louder. And one of the greatest things we can do is to take that time to quiet our mind, because it gives the energy out into the world, and it allows other people to say, wow, look at that. I don't have to keep telling my story. I can actually receive a story. I can actually receive information because I've quieted the story I've been telling. And you know, neuroscientists will tell us that 90% of our thoughts, of this thinking chatter, 90% of it is negative. Ugh, womp, womp, womp. And then they'll go on to further tell you that 70% of those 90% of your thinking are repetitive thoughts. They're thoughts you think day in, day out, moment to moment. So your thinker is just on rinse, repeat, you know, just keeps doing it. And so interrupting it is a really beautiful spiritual practice to really tune into the God within you. That, you know, if you want to be in this space where you are living and knowing that you are this aspect of God, then it is important for you to interrupt 90% of your thinking. And it is really important to interrupt the 70% that you've already thought. Especially if it's just pumping through judgment, criticism, preference, priority, the past, the future. Those are the things that take us away from the present. And so what I loved about this meditation, getting us into the gap, is that I had a teacher tell me, Natalie, you know, it is one thing to get in the gap when you're meditating or when you're doing the slow flow with turtles. I love that. You get that whole practice is about slowing down, getting into the gap of the mindset. But I don't know about you, sometimes I'm living at like, I don't know, Mach 10, maybe more, I don't know what's higher than that, but. And so I'm thinking, and then where do I get that pause? And this teacher of mine said, Natalie, if you begin to hum, it's harder to keep the thoughts going. And he said further on, when we meditate, often we are encouraged to say, Om, Om. And right now there are people going, I think I can think while I'm humming. I think I can do it. So let's just do this for a second. Let's see if it has its effect. Let's just say, Om, Om, Om. relaxing, and part of that is giving space for you to breathe and just be. And so this meditation of my own really led me back to this question that Jesus poses to his apostles. He says, "Who do you say that I am?" And I thought, this is such a powerful question. Who do you say that I am? And so the apostles immediately go into telling Jesus who Jesus is. And that has merit, but I think the other thing that is here for us, the richness in that gospel, is that Jesus is asking, who do you say that I am? And that I am has a deeper meaning. Let's go back to Moses speaking to God in the form of the burning bush. And Moses says, "What is your name?" And God replies, "I am." And then Jesus comes forward and says, "Who do you say that I am?" And that question is not meant so that I can ask, this person and this person to reflect to me. No, that question is meant for me to really look at, who is it that I say that I am? Who is the I am within me? And as I'm doing this, so often I've gotten up here and I've talked about, listen, we are love. That is what we are. That is our being. And Eckhart Tolle, in the book of The Power of Now, he does this whole explanation of how he doesn't use the word God, he uses the word being. Because so much of God has already been given a gender, it's been given a past, it's been given a present. But being is now. Being. And so I really loved that idea, and I thought, well, who am I? I'm a being. I'm a being. And that being is being in the oneness with God. So I liked asking this question, and here's what's funny, is that when I ask this question in meditation, I do a practice where I say, who do you say that I am? And the person I'm asking is the higher self of Natalie. That's who I'm posing the question to. So this avatar, this personality of Natalie, is taking the time to go to the highest self and say, who do you say that I am? And the thinker wants to hear words. The thinker wants an answer. And so to circumvent the thinker, I simply say, who do you say that I am? I release the expectation that there is an answer that comes through thought. And I accept and open myself to receive. There is a knowing through the stillness of being. And so I want you to do this with me right now. I want you to say with me, who do I say that I am? And then let's together. So let's plant our feet on the floor. Let's ground ourselves. Let's do this spiritual practice together. We're going to do it 3 times. Here we go. Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? When you practice this every day, when you put this into the space and you start becoming aware of the thinker and you invite the thinker to stop and to join you in this meditation, there is a great power that starts coming forward that is you, that is specific to you, that God has created in you. And you begin to start tuning in deeper and deeper to this life that is meant to express love in the deepest capacity. And then you start finding ways. The road rises up to meet you. You start finding ways. Things will become forward for you to start tuning in and tuning in. And sometimes you could be standing in the grocery line and there's chaos all around you. You know, some kid is knocked over or something, and there's someone else haggling about, well, I have this coupon or whatever it is. And you can be in the midst of the chaos and just go, And you don't have to do like a big spectacle of it. I don't expect you to be, I mean, you can. It's a choice. But sometimes it's very simple to simply get back into the space in the simple places. Just It brings you into that space. It reminds your thinker to be interrupted, and in that moment, you can join in just being. Just being. And so I loved that. I loved that idea of getting into that gap, to get into that space, and just being. And then here's what gets sweeter. The third principle of unity is co-creating with God. We are co-creators with God. I want to say that again. You are a co-creator with God. That's incredible. That is incredible that you get to be at the same table and join in and understand your being and know that this being is co-creating with you. It's powerful. I just got goosebumps. That's weird. I gave myself goosebumps. All right. Because it's powerful. And so here's the sweetest part that has started coming to me is that when we engage in this and we get into this space of our being, we encourage this idea of co-creating with God. And then here it comes again, the I am statements. The I am statements. And you will see many people who are about manifesting, many people who are in that that conversation. They talk about, get up in the morning and make your I am statements and say it into the mirror. That's how you're going to manifest something. That is absolutely true. That does help, and it is powerful. But then think of the richness of going to that mirror and understanding when you say I am, you are acknowledging the being, the divine being within you that is co-creating with the divine being of oneness. And so there is a richness there that is for you. And so now you begin to say these powerful I am statements. I am. And that I am statement isn't meant for the heady part of you. It's actually meant for that subconsciousness part of you. That part of you that's in the underbelly that really has a lot of the driver's seat. Have you ever been triggered by something you don't necessarily understand, and then you tune in and you're like, oh yeah, that's what's under that. A lot of those triggers live in the subconscious. A lot of the thoughts that have been repeating and repeating and repeating sift themselves right on down into the subconsciousness. And by understanding the thinker, by getting into that gap and just being, you're allowing some of that subconsciousness to release. You're giving yourself the opportunity in co-creation to shift yourself and shift these underlying foundational thoughts. You have more access to them in that process. So I really love the idea of saying, I am. Knowing that you are invoking the great I am within you and with God, and that you're acknowledging the co-creation. And that you're acknowledging it in a way that gets beyond the critic and gets beyond the thinker and gets beyond your defenses and moves into the space within you that can actually create shift. And so they say powerful manifestors understand that part. And so I know that this is an amazing way of doing things, to have this practice, to do, who do you say that I am, and then Om, and just be with it. Do not get attached to answers. And then move into I am statements. Those I am statements will come freely and easily to you because your being already knows. And so when you write the I am statement, you'll have empowerment in that because you know you are invoking the I am. And so then I was delving into this more, and I thought, this is so interesting. I saw this, I can't even remember where now, so forgive me. But I saw this in the space where they were saying, you know, there are 7 energy centers in our body. We call them chakras. And so what if then you take this great I am and you ground it into the 7 energy centers of our body? It's more than an I am statement. Here it is in the 7 chakras. And so the example I give is something, it's something easy, it's something we've all heard. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. We've all heard this, yes? I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. And so let's say that's your example. And so you could start at the root chakra and say, I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. And then you move up to the sacral energy center, and you can say, I feel healthy, wealthy, and wise. And this is where we lose some of our grammatical correctness, so don't let your critic get you out of whack with this. But then we move into the solar plexus, and you can say, I do healthy, wealthy, and wise. And then you move into that heart space. I love healthy, wealthy, and wise. You move into your throat chakra, and you say, I speak healthy, wealthy, and wise. And you move into that third eye area, and you say, I see healthy, wealthy, and wise. And then you move into your crown chakra, this energy center, this top of your head, and you say, I know healthy, wealthy, and wise. And you activate this avatar, this person, with all of its energy centers, and you activate it with the great I am, with these as well. And watch how shift begins to happen. Just watch how it starts to happen. And so this week, I invite you to take time and to ask yourself in this practice, who do I say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And then, Om. And then get deliberate and recognize that you are an amazing co-creator with God. You are a co-creator. If you are looking out on the out-picturing of the world and you are wanting shift to happen, begin with yourself and the acknowledgement that you are a co-creator with God. And let's watch this thing shift. And 3, I invite you to invite this great I am into every energy center of your body. Every energy center there, invite in this powerful co-creation, knowing that you are designed to co-create with God. This is a powerful practice. I can't wait to see where it takes us. It's going to be pretty amazing to see what goes on, to really experience this new being that we are stepping into. It's a powerful way to be conscious and to be present. Because when you are setting your foundation with this, you will find that you are present. Easier and easier and easier to be present. Apparently grammar has left my mind, sorry. So this powerful practice, my friends, this powerful practice is there for you. And if you need to take a picture of this, please feel free. It's a great opportunity to get into this practice. And you know, the reading today, I love that Larry pointed this out, because in this, as the reading today stated, you have a valuable gift to bring this world. And the more we practice being present, the more we invite others to do the same. The more we are present, the more we invite others to do the same. And we don't have to tell others our argument or convince them of our beliefs. We can simply be in that state of being with God, knowing fully how empowered we are by being a co-creator with God. And so let the presence that we create heal the world. Let the presence that we create, we co-create to heal the world. And so it is. Amen. Amen.
If you would like to support this content and others like it, please give at unityoftoledo.com, where love is an everyday experience.